Let's talk about something most people completely overlook when it comes to attraction and influence: the power of language. Not just what we say, but how we say it, where we say it, and the emotional fingerprints our words leave behind. You see, we're wired to respond to language in ways that go way beyond logic. Our brains react emotionally, instinctively, even subconsciously, to certain words and phrases. It's not manipulation. It's just how we're built. When you hear someone say, "I need you," it hits differently than, "I like you." Why? Because language isn't just a communication tool. It's a connection tool. It either builds bridges between two people or slowly disassembles them. And when you know how to use it with care, with timing, and with a sense of truth, it can create a bond that feels magnetic. That's the real power here. Now, I want you to imagine this. You're talking to a man and he's listening to your words, but more than that, he's feeling your words. He's not analyzing them like an email at work. He's emotionally registering what you're saying. His brain is going through this lightning, fast scan, asking, does this make me feel safe, desired, respected, seen? And when your words answer yes to those subconscious questions, something shifts in him. You've moved from being someone who talks to him to someone who reaches him. That's why I'm telling you, language, especially in the early stages of attraction, is everything. It's what carves out the emotional space where intimacy can grow. It's what creates that moment where he walks away thinking, I don't know what it is about her, but I can't stop thinking about her. It's not because you wore the right outfit or played hard to get. It's because you said something that touched something deeper. So many people try to build connection through logic. We have the same interests. We like the same music. We have good conversation. And that's nice, but it's surface level. If you want to create lasting emotional impact, if you want to feel like you've got a key to something inside him that most people never even see, you have to understand how powerful just a few words can be. Think about the brain for a moment, not as this cold machine, but as an emotional processor. When a child hears, I'm proud of you, from a parent, their entire world shifts. Their confidence grows, they stand a little taller. Why? Because of 3 words. That doesn't stop when we grow up. Adults still carry that need for validation, for significance, for feeling like they matter. Men are no exception. And the truth is, they often hear the opposite: criticism, pressure, doubt. So when you come along and you say something simple, something genuine, that affirms his value or speaks to a part of him he's insecure about, you create this spark. Not because you're manipulating him, but because you're speaking to the part of him that wants to be seen. Let me give you an example. You say to a man, you make me feel safe. You could have said, you're cool, or you're handsome, or you're smart. And those are fine, but this tells him something about the way he shows up in the world. It tells him he's doing something right. It gives him purpose. And a man who feels like he's making a woman's life better, that man isn't going anywhere. It's these small shifts in language that unlock something deeper. And once you understand this, you begin to realize you don't need to say a lot. You just need to say the right things at the right moment. When he's frustrated, you say, I believe in you. When he's distant, you don't chase. You say, I miss us. You don't overload the moment. You give it space, and you let your words land. And when those words are real, when they're not said to get a reaction, but because they come from an honest place, he feels that. He knows the difference between performance and presence. That's what draws him in. That's what makes him open up in return. Because now, he's not just being talked at. He's being understood. Language isn't just about expressing what you want. It's about shaping how the other person feels when they're with you. When you speak with intention, with clarity, and with emotional intelligence, you don't just influence what he does. You influence how he sees you, and that's when everything changes. Because once someone starts associating you with the feeling of being seen, appreciated, and inspired, those aren't just words anymore, they're anchors. Let's dive deeper now into something we often forget. When we're trying to connect with someone, especially in a romantic context, people rarely remember the details of what you say, but they always remember how you made them feel. This is especially true with men. You might think that attraction is about looks or clever texts or showing him how interesting your life is, but the truth is, it's emotional impact that leaves a lasting impression. That's what sticks. It's not about impressing him with your accomplishments or playing games to keep him guessing. It's about creating a feeling that he can't get out of his head. That emotional fingerprint. That moment where he felt something in your presence that he doesn't feel with anyone else. That's what makes you unforgettable. And more importantly, that's what makes him keep coming back. You ever notice how you can be around someone who says all the right things, but something just feels off? It's like they're ticking all the boxes, but you still don't feel connected to them. And then someone else comes along, and maybe they're not saying anything groundbreaking, but there's something in their energy, their presence, their honesty, and you feel seen. That's emotional imprinting. That's what actually makes a moment meaningful. Now here's where it gets really interesting. When a man interacts with you, he's not just gathering facts. He's absorbing energy. He's feeling out whether he can be vulnerable with you, whether he can let his guard down, whether being with you adds something to his world or drains it. And this happens before he even consciously processes it. It's not calculated, it's felt. So many people think connection comes from saying the perfect line or playing everything cool. But what really moves someone is when they feel emotionally safe, when they feel admired, when they feel that being around you gives them something they can't name, but they crave. That's the kind of thing that keeps a man thinking about you long after the conversation ends. Because it wasn't about the conversation. It was about the feeling it left behind. And here's something a lot of women don't realize: men aren't as emotionally numb as they often appear. They're just conditioned to hide it. But when a woman creates a space where they don't feel judged, where they feel appreciated not for what they have done, but for who they are, that's rare. And it's powerful, because most of the time, men are performing. They're trying to be impressive, strong, stoic. But when you look at him and reflect something true back to him, when you say something like, "I feel really calm when I'm around you," or "You make things feel easier somehow," he doesn't just hear those words. He feels validated in a way that goes deeper than ego. He starts to feel like himself when he's with you. And that's when the real emotional imprinting begins. Because now, it's not about who you are on paper. It's about how you see him feel about himself when he's around you. This is why the timing and tone of your words matter so much. It's not just what you say. It's the emotional space you're in when you say it. If you're frustrated and you say, "I just need more from you," it lands differently than when you come from a place of openness and say, I really miss how close we felt before. One triggers defensiveness, the other invites closeness. That one sentence, delivered in a moment of softness, can stick with a man for days. Not because you said something poetic, but because you touched something honest. That's what makes those 3 words we're building up to so impactful. Not because they're magical in themselves, but because they're charged with feeling. When you speak from that place, when your intention is connection, not control, you leave a mark. And most importantly, it's a mark he welcomes. Because men aren't looking for someone to outsmart them or challenge them at every turn. Deep down, they're looking for someone who sees behind the performance. Someone who doesn't need them to be perfect, but makes them feel like they're enough already. This is the real reason those emotionally charged moments stay with him. It's not the dinner you planned or the photo you posted or the witty banter. It's the moment he felt something shift when he was with you. That moment of connection that felt real, effortless, safe. That's the kind of thing he replays in his mind when he's alone. That's what makes him miss you when you're gone. Not because you occupied his time, but because you moved something in him. And if you can do that, if you can create that kind of emotional experience for a man, not by being someone you're not, but by being present with him in an honest way, then you're not just another person he dated. You're the one who made him feel something real. And that's not easily forgotten. So now we come to the part you've been waiting for. The actual words. The 3 magic words. You say to control his mind. And I know how that sounds. It sounds like some gimmick, like a trick to make someone fall at your feet. But it's not that. It's not about manipulation. It's about influence. It's about understanding how powerful a few intentional words can be when they tap into something deeper. Something emotional, something primal. Because if we've already agreed that people remember how you made them feel, and that language shapes the emotional memory, then the words you choose in those critical moments matter. They're not just sounds. They're signals. They're emotional triggers that go straight past logic and land in the part of his brain where attachment and desire live. So what are the words? You understand me? Let that sink in for a second. Not, I love you. Not, I need you. Not even, you're the one. Those are fine. They have their moments. But they're not what tap into the deepest part of a man's mind. The part that spent a lifetime being told to be strong, to suppress, to compete, to protect, to lead. But not necessarily to open up, not to feel deeply, and certainly not to be understood. That's why, you understand me, hits different. Because whether he says it or not, whether he even consciously realizes it or not, what a man craves more than almost anything else is to feel like someone gets him. That someone can look past all the noise, the surface, the status, the bravado, and see the man beneath it all, to understand what drives him, what scares him, what makes him feel alive. And when you say those 3 words, especially at the right moment, maybe when he's sharing something vulnerable or opening up in a way he normally wouldn't, or even when he's frustrated and doesn't know how to express it. And you look at him and say, I understand you, or you understand me. With total sincerity, something profound happens. It's like a lock turning in his mind. Because suddenly, this isn't just a casual connection anymore. You've created depth. You've created a moment of recognition, of intimacy, of safety. You've shown him that you're not just attracted to what he does. You're tuned into who he is. And what's even more powerful? When Ihe starts saying it back. When he looks at you in a quiet moment and says, "You really get me." That's when you know you've imprinted on him. That's when you know you've created something not just desirable, but rare. Because let's face it, there are plenty of people in this world who can offer excitement, attraction, even chemistry. But very few offer true understanding. That's the part that sticks with him. Long after the moment has passed. Long after he's left your place or said goodnight. Because now it's emotional. Now it's psychological. You've become safe, but not boring. You've become emotionally stimulating, but not chaotic. You've made him feel seen. And once someone feels that with you, they'll chase that feeling over and over again, because it's not something they can easily find anywhere else. What's interesting is that saying, "You understand me," doesn't just affect him. It shifts you too. It moves you into a place where you're not trying to perform or prove anything. You're not angling for approval. You're simply present, curious, attentive. And when you're in that energy, it's magnetic, because you're showing him, without needing to shout it, that you see him. And let's be clear, this isn't about inflating his ego. It's not about showering him with praise or pretending you understand him when you don't. It's about the moments where you genuinely do. When you notice the things he doesn't say, when you catch the pause in his sentence, or the way his eyes shift when he's talking about something important, when you pick up on who he is underneath what he shows the world. That's when those 3 words matter most. Not when everything's easy and fun, but in the small, emotionally charged moments. The ones that come and go quickly. Unless you're the kind of person who knows how to be present enough to catch them. That's the difference between someone he enjoys spending time with and someone he can't stop thinking about. So when you speak those words, "You understand me," or "I feel like you get me," say them with intention. Say them when it counts. Because when you do, you're not just saying something nice. You're creating emotional gravity. You're pulling him in, not with force, but with connection, with resonance, with truth. And truth is what makes words unforgettable. Let's talk about timing. Because the truth is, you can have the most powerful words in the world, but if you say them at the wrong time or in the wrong way, they'll fall flat. Worse, they might even have the opposite effect. And it's not because the words weren't right. It's because context is everything. The moment matters just as much as the message. We've all had moments where someone said something that should have felt sweet or meaningful, but it didn't land. Maybe it felt rushed, forced, or just off. And then there are those other times, those rare moments, where someone says something simple and it hits you like a wave. It stops you in your tracks, not because it was dramatic, but because it was perfectly timed. That's what we're after. If you want to truly influence a man's emotional world, to reach into that place where connection turns into loyalty and attraction turns into attachment, you need to become a master of emotional timing. And that doesn't mean being manipulative or overly strategic. It just means being aware, being present, noticing the moments where the words actually have the space to land. Think of it like music. It's not just about the notes. It's about the silence between the notes. It's the rhythm, the pause, the drop before the chorus. That's what makes it powerful. Language works the same way. There's the message, but then there's the delivery. There's the emotional state of the person receiving it. There's the emotional environment you're creating when you speak. If you say, "You understand me," in the middle of an argument, or when he's distracted, or when you're both half listening to each other while scrolling on your phones, it doesn't hit. It might even get ignored. But say it when he's opened up to you, when he's let down a wall, when he's said something that shows a side of him he doesn't show everyone. And you meet him with those words, quietly, sincerely, then it sticks. That's when the emotional imprint forms. It's not about saying these words on a date just because the setting feels romantic. Sometimes, the most powerful moments happen during the ordinary. You're in the car, and the conversation goes deeper than usual. You're at home, and he lets you in on something he's worried about. These are the little pockets where emotional honesty lives, where it feels safe to be real. That's when those 3 words carry the most weight. Tone is just as important. You can say something meaningful, but if your tone is rushed, distracted, or insincere, it loses all its power. You have to be in the feeling yourself. You can't say, "I feel safe with you," like you're reciting a script. You say it because you mean it in that moment, because you feel it. And when you speak from a place of presence, of stillness, of real emotion, he feels it too. Even if he doesn't fully understand why, he'll remember how it made him feel. And don't underestimate the power of es less. You don't need to fill every silence or over-explain what you mean. In fact, when you say something real and just leave it there, that space you create after can be just as powerful as the words themselves. It gives him room to process, to feel it, to absorb it. And often, it's in the silence that your words echo the loudest. This is also where trust is built. When you show that you're not trying to force a moment, but that you're tuned into it. You're responsive, not reactive. You're aware of what's happening between you, not just trying to make something happen. That's incredibly attractive. It shows emotional intelligence. It shows maturity. And it makes him feel like he's with someone who gets the unspoken just as much as the spoken. You don't have to stage the perfect romantic setting or wait for fireworks. Some of the most intimate moments are quiet, simple, vulnerable. And if you're brave enough to lean into those spaces and offer those words at just the right time, you don't just stand out. You become someone he feels drawn to. Because now, he's not just experiencing attraction, he's experiencing connection. And that's a different level entirely. So yes, say the words. Speak from the heart. But don't rush it. Don't throw them out just because you feel like you should. Wait for the moment that feels real, that feels alive. When he lets you see him, not the version he performs, but the version he protects. That's when your words will matter the most. That's when they'll live in his mind long after you've said them. Because when the right words meet the right moment, they don't just touch his ears, they touch his heart. At the core of every man is a quiet craving, not for perfection, not even always for love, but for something deeper, something that speaks directly to how he sees himself in the world. Every man wants to feel like he matters, that he's capable, that he's trusted, that the role he plays in your life makes a difference. And while he may never come out and say it in those words, that desire drives so much of his behavior in relationships. It's subtle, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you understand it, you can use it to build an emotional connection that goes far beyond surface level attraction. So often, we get distracted by what we think we need to do to keep a man's attention. Be interesting, be fun, be independent, play it cool, don't show too much emotion too early. And yes, there's value in self-respect, and not losing yourself in someone else. But real influence, lasting connection, isn't built on strategy. It's built on heirs meeting him where he lives emotionally. And the truth is, most men are walking around with a quiet hunger to feel respected, admired, safe to be vulnerable without losing the sense of being needed or strong. That's why the words we've been talking about, those 3 words that leave an imprint, work best when they echo those core desires. When you say, "You understand me," or "I trust you," or even, "I feel safe with you," you're doing more than giving him a compliment. You're speaking directly to his identity. You're letting him know that the way he shows up in the world, his strength, his presence, his intentions, matters to you. That he's not just there, but he's seen. And not just seen, valued. So many men carry around this invisible weight of always having to perform. Be the provider. Be in control. Don't show too much emotion. Don't break. And while that pressure is mostly silent, it's always there. That's why, when you create a moment where he doesn't have to be on, when he doesn't have to prove anything, and you still look at him like he's everything, you shift the entire dynamic. You give him something most people never do. Permission to be fully himself. And here's what's really powerful. The moment he feels safe enough to stop performing is the moment he bonds with you on a deeper level. That's when his defenses come down. That's when he starts to open up. That's when you stop being someone he's dating and start becoming someone he can't imagine losing. But it takes more than just one sentence to create that. It's not about flattering his ego. It's about mirroring back to him something real. It's about noticing the ways he tries, the effort he puts in, the things he does that he thinks go unseen. When you acknowledge those things, even subtly, it reinforces something in him. And what you reinforce, you get more of. That's the kind of influence that doesn't feel like control. It feels like inspiration. You're not changing him. You're reflecting back the best of him. And in doing so, you become the person who brings that version of him out. That's incredibly powerful. Because people gravitate toward those who make them feel like their best self. Not the person who challenges them constantly. Not the one who keeps them guessing. But the one who sees them clearly and believes in who they are underneath all the noise. That's why emotional safety is everything. Not just for you, but for him. If you want a man to step up, to be more present, more open, more emotionally connected, you have to become the person who makes that feel possible. And again, that doesn't mean shrinking yourself or walking on eggshells. It just means being aware of what matters to him, what he's proud of, what he's insecure about, what he's really looking for when he says he wants a real connection. Because often, he doesn't even know how to articulate it. But when you say something that aligns with it, something like, "I always feel grounded when I'm with you," or "I love the way you protect the people you care about," you're putting words to something he deeply hopes is true. And when someone reflects that truth back to you, it's magnetic. It pulls you in. You feel understood in a way that logic can't explain. That's the power of using words not just to express what you want, but to reflect back the version of him that he's proud to be. The version that feels capable, trusted, strong, but also emotionally safe. When you do that, when you speak to his core, not just his appearance or accomplishments, you create a space that he doesn't want to leave. And once a man associates you with that space, with the feeling of being understood, respected, and accepted, he's not just interested in you, he's invested. Now, I want to bring this all back to something important. Because after everything we've talked about, the emotional imprint, the timing, the powerful words, the connection, it's easy to get caught up in the idea of influence and forget what this is really about. It's not about having control over someone else. It's not about bending their will to get what you want. It's about creating a relationship dynamic that feels real, honest, and emotionally fulfilling for both of you. You're not saying these words to trap someone or to play games. You're saying them to build a deeper connection, a relationship built on emotional safety, mutual trust, and genuine desire. That's not manipulation. That's emotional maturity. That's what real intimacy looks like. It's tempting, especially when you've been hurt before, or when you've felt unseen, to want to use words or behaviors as a form of control, to protect yourself from being vulnerable again. But when we start seeing emotional influence as a tool for self-protection instead of connection, that's when we lose the very thing we're trying to create. Love becomes a power struggle instead of a partnership. So this has to come from the right place. When you say, "I trust you," or "You understand me," or "I feel safe with you," those words carry weight. Not because you're trying to get something, but because you mean something. That's the difference. That's what makes it land. That's what makes it stick. You can say all the right things. You can learn every trick in the book. But if your energy is off, if it's coming from fear or neediness, or the desire to control, it will always show. And not only will it show, but it will start to chip away at the authenticity of your connection. It might work in the short term. You might get his attention. But it won't hold his heart. What holds someone's heart is how you make them feel over time. That you're not trying to trap them, but to understand them. That you're not pushing them to open up, but creating the space where they really want to. That when they do reveal themselves, you don't use it against them or turn it into leverage. You hold it gently. You respect it. You make it safe to keep going. That's when emotional influence becomes a gift, not just to him, but to you too. Because now you're not playing a part. You're not living in anxiety, wondering how to keep his attention. You're grounded in who you are. You're using your words and your presence as a way to offer something, not as a way to extract something. And when you operate from that place, the entire energy of the relationship changes. People think influence means power, that it means control. But real influence, the kind that creates lasting love, isn't about dominance. It's about resonance. It's about creating an emotional frequency between you and someone else that they want to keep tuning into. And you can't fake that. You build it by being present, by being honest, by knowing when to speak, and just as importantly, when to listen. And sometimes that means not saying the powerful words. It means noticing when the moment isn't right, when he's not in a place to receive it, when it would feel more like pressure than connection. That's part of being emotionally intelligent. Having the patience to wait for the real moment, the honest one, instead of trying to manufacture it. Because when it happens naturally, it hits so much harder. And it lasts. We've all been on the receiving end of someone trying to say the right thing to win us over. And we've also been on the receiving end of someone who just gets us and says something simple, but real, at the exact right moment. That second one, that's the one we remember. That's the one we replay in our mind. That's the one we hold on to when things get hard. So as you start to use these tools, this awareness of emotional language, this ability to connect to time your words, to say the right things with intention. Just remember why you're doing it. You're doing it because you want a relationship that feels good. That is good. You're doing it because you know that love without depth doesn't last. That attraction without emotional connection eventually fades. You're not here to control his mind. You're here to meet it, to understand it, to inspire it. And in doing that, you become the person he doesn't just want, but the person he trusts, the person he chooses again and again. Because when your words come from truth and your presence comes from love, you don't have to control anything. You just become unforgettable.